I thought it was the sun
He can't
again.
walk, and he's just, here, hold my beer, watch.
That was the one?
That was Mel, yeah.
She's taking the substitute teacher class today.
Is she?
Oh, is she?
I think she'll be awesome.
I freaking love Mel.
I fear for the children.
Mel with a little,
I mean, you think.
Turn around.
little
AEMT is
collapsible
scary.
baton.
Turn around, put your hands behind your back. You're going to the principal.
She'll be awesome.
You have the right to remain.
Do you really wanna go there?
Or anything that will be used against you in court of law.
It's his classroom.
May I go with the principal?
Okay, you're good, you're running, 10-6 been invited.
Oh, okay.
All right, hey, Tin Sleep, good to see you.
They're not, I don't know if they're there, but they've been invited.
Okay.
I don't see it.
PCRs are what?
PCR?
What's that stand for? It's all through this chapter.
Patient care report.
Yeah, that's
Patient
the
care
one.
reports, very good. Ours are primarily electronic here in Wyoming.
Yes.
Things to kind of know about those. If you go back in and make changes after it's closed, you got to document exactly why you're making a change, because they can tell if you've been in there and made adjustments to that report. You need to make sure that what you put down is correct.
This is on waters you're talking about?
Yes, on waters. Patient care reports, as far as documentation, if you're gonna repeat what a patient says, make sure you put it in quotation marks so that it's the exact words, but make sure it's the exact words. A lot of our calls, we have the PD there. They all wear body cameras that records everything. If there comes a question later and you misquote the patient and it's in your documentation, you're gonna have to explain that. So, good enough. Talking about dealing with people, different ages, different nationalities, all kinds of cultural issues at different times. We don't see a lot of that. We see some. I think with people of age, the best thing, as we always say, is treat all patients as you would want to be treated yourself, with respect.
I have a question on that.
Yeah.
It's gonna be on the test, but I do, it drives me nuts that they require a nationality or whatever, you have to pick whether they're black, white, purple, or green. I'm not gonna ask anybody. I've been putting other race. I'm not gonna ask them what race they are when they're, I mean, sometimes it's obvious, but sometimes it's not so obvious.
Is it going to change your care?
No, I'm just.
That's what I'm saying. I
Right,
don't
no,
see
I'm
that
not-
one as being a real relevant.
I think
It's
that's
just
just
no-
for statistical issues, they just do all the demographics and so.
That's where the systemic racism comes from. That's my only problem with it. It's irritating. I can't answer it properly because I'm not gonna say, excuse me, for reporting purposes, what race do you mark when you fill out official paperwork?
I think that's why they dropped the religious thing, asking.
I just wanted to throw that out.
That did change.
Hey, that's a good point, Dale. I agree with you. When you're communicating with a patient, we run into this sometimes when we have multiple people on the crew.
Sorry, we don't do a bridge.
It's best to have one person asking questions at a time, because a lot of times you'll get cross questions from various crew members, and the patient may become confused, may become agitated because they feel they're being interrogated. We're all trying to ask the right thing. It's just simply a matter of probably just one person per crew doing the initial interview. So there's no confusion, no cross channels. I don't think I need to go into nonverbal communications.
Flipping the bird's not appropriate?
No. Been known to happen both ways, but
But in fairness,
yeah.
Amy's the one that's doing it.
Yeah, no, not always.
It's yours, buddy.
The one the other night was probably gonna work it our way. The big one on page 106, as we move along quickly, because we've talked about all this in the lower class. Open-ended questions versus closed-end questions. Take time to listen to the patient. Don't ask a question, a yes/no answer. Try to ask something that gives them a chance to give you more information, so you can actually listen to what their concerns are. If you just say, "Are you diabetic?" Yeah, yes, no. Well, maybe you can tell me about your history, your medical history. What things are going on? What medications do you take? Those type of questions where you leave it more open. What has the doctor told you? How about going to page 109?
They've responded by text, but they're not here.
They're not there? Good enough. Interview techniques to avoid. Providing false assurance or reassurance. We already talked about that one. Giving unsolicited advice has been known to happen. Asking leading or biased questions. And I know I find myself when I've hauled somebody numerous times and I think I know what's wrong with them, I tend to ask questions that will answer my own questions because I already know the answer type of thing. To avoid that, just give them a chance to talk.
Holy crap, I think that question could give this way. Are you telling me this time's the only reason
Gee, I've never done that.
I'm pretty sure you paired that
I'm
with
pretty
the
sure I
second
thought it,
question
but I
a
hopefully
little
never.
bit. Kind of mix those two questions together, the second and third question. That cut is the only reason you called. I really wouldn't have called the ambulance at all.
Basically. They talk about maintaining eye contact, but in some cultures eye contact is not appropriate, so you need to be careful how you do that. We don't need to talk about, provide your name, use the patient's proper name, Mr. or Mrs., Madam, Sir, type of thing. Difficult patients. It's best not to lose your cool. When the guy was telling me to F off the other night, I still was respectful and I said, sir, we're trying
Thank
to.
you. Thank you.
I
Thank you very much.
actually was impressed.
Don't go do that
I
right
thought
now.
you did a nice job that you and Tyler both, I kinda kept my distance, so I didn't get too far. I was impressed with how you both handled it.
Are you
I was just
mentally
trying
fragile?
not to laugh.
Well, no, I think different personalities with different patients sometimes work better. And we'd had previous contact with this patient.
I knew to keep my distance.
And, not that any of us really have a great rapport with this individual, but some of us do a little better for a little longer than others. Though I was beginning to lose my patience also. Older patients, what are some barriers?
They're hearing.
The hearing,
Hearing very definitely.
I think even
if they don't have their teeth in.
Yeah, they don't have their teeth in, they can't communicate back.
Mobility.
Mobility, big one can be dementia.
Yep.
We run into that periodically where family members sometimes will acknowledge it, sometimes won't. All those things can become children. Some work better with children than others, obviously. They talk about getting down the child's level, trying to be honest but yet reassuring. What have I missed on children?
if you can, keep their parent with them to keep them calm and transport.
Yeah, obviously if we got a parent there, that's great, unless the parent might happen to be deceased or something in the same vehicle, we run into that.
Or totally freaked and not really helpful.
Yeah, and that happens too, but if you try to separate that parent from the child, get ready, because you're gonna have a hell of a fight, I'm afraid.
My favorite thing that Molly ever taught me is that if somebody, like a parent or a bystander, is like trying to help you, give them like a blanket or something and say, I need you to hold this. And then first off, calm down, and second off, stay out of your way. And I love that.
Yeah, and that's a great, that's a great technique.
And being, I've been the family member, and like, even though I'm an EMT, when it came to Dad, my brain would go out the window. And so, they even would have to do that kind of with me at times, because it would just go, because especially like as the EMT, there's something
Kind of moving on real quickly, 113, hard of hearing patients or visually impaired. I've had hard of hearing patients, we all have. What's a quick way to communicate with them mostly? Let them write it. Yeah.
And don't assume, cause like my daughter's hard of hearing, and the one thing I will say is like, if they look at you and they're like, that means they heard nothing you said.
Good to know.
You can always ask if they can read lips, cause that helps. I mean, they may,
But with
well,
the mask
they may have that
issue
skill.
right now,
Sure.
Right, that
sometimes
doesn't
you have
help
to
with the
pull.
mask. Right.
Yeah.
The mask it hinders a lot with our elderly patients, because they're having a hard time understanding you, and they're hard to
Yes.
understand what.
And
the
they
mask
often
says.
read lips. They have some hearing, but they read lips quite often
And
too.
there are clear masks out there.
Yeah.
They say never shout at a patient, obviously, that one kind of makes sense. But when you're going down the road in the back of an ambulance, and it's a gravel road and Brennan's driving, and you're skipping from bump to bump, the back of the ambulance can be kind of a noisy place. Sometimes you have to kind of raise your voice to even communicate with your crew members, so.
We got there fast.
We did, my God, got there safely too, Brennan, thank you. Go page 114, non-English speaking. Obviously, if you can find somebody else that speaks the language, great. If not, simple signs are all helpful. Special needs, this is one of the things that they talk about are students or kids with autism. And there's more and more autism.
That's a wide spectrum.
Yeah, and there is a wide spectrum with autism. There are kids that are mildly autistic that operate, function fairly effectively, and there are kids with severe autism that don't function at all. I mean, their skills, having been special ed director, I can tell you we've got the whole gamut right here in little small town Thermopolis, and it's frustrating for them, it's frustrating for parents, and if it's an ambulance situation and their day is out of normal, it's going to be crazy for them. I guarantee it. Try to be calming, try not to move too quickly, try to reassure them, keep going. Communicating with the hospital, what are some things that they need to know? Take a look on page 115. When you walk in the door, and this is not when you're on the radio necessarily, we all kind of have the bullet for the radio that we need to give them prior to getting there. But the opening information should include the patient's name, chief complaint, nature of illness, mechanism of injury, would all be part of that initial as you walk in the door with that patient. Detailed information that was not provided during the radio report. They give the example, denies losing consciousness, states she has no history of stroke, has been feeling a little lightheaded when she stands. Things that you're not going to probably put on the radio that are still pertinent for patient care. Any important history, you're probably not going to put a lot of history on the radio in the initial call. That's where you fill them in with the rest of it. Pertinent findings of your physical exam. What did you note as you examined the patient? Patient's response to treatment. You know, we gave them oxygen. Did their breathing improve? Did their O2 sat improve? We started an IV. We're giving fluid. You know, his blood pressure, has their level of consciousness changed over time? And then finally, vital signs. And then any other information that you feel is pertinent for that patient. Questions? Okay, moving on. We all got that one down. Most of us today, except for myself, use the cell phone for communications, obviously. I typically forget mine when I run out the door in the middle of the night. We have cell phone, we got radio. Radios work much better now that we're on the FM system. Is it FM? The Wyoming, is that?
No,
It's not FM. What is it?
I don't know what network. It's
I know it works better. It's higher.
digital trunking. It does work better,
What?
except at the hospital. I'm not sure if they ever found a good spot to put that radio. I know there for a while it would
The new one?
like continuously beep, and
New place?
yeah, it would continuously go whatever they call out of service or out of range because of the materials used in the building process.
They need an external antenna.
Yeah,
somehow
well,
runs
yes, they
in.
do, and I don't know if they ever got that fixed or not.
Well, the only thing to remember is the radio will work where the phones sometimes do not. Classic was our wreck up on Hospital Hill, just around the corner in the blind, where basically the radio would work, but the cell phones were non-existent. And we're trying to call the hospital, we can't get out, and we're screaming on the radio and they aren't monitoring the radio. And we roll in with 2 pretty severe patients they get like 2 minutes notice.
We can also call the PD and ask them to call and let them know that we're on our way, and just at least let them know that we're coming.
Yeah, and we've had to do that numerous times, and PD's been good about it.
Ted Sleep's having a hard time hearing people other than Jim talk, so.
We'll speak up. I have no problem with that.
The portable radios we got in the ambulance are really handy when you go into the scene. The trouble is, they just don't get out very far. They won't operate the same distance as the car radio. Car radio's got a lot more to it. I'm not gonna go into the rest of it. We don't have a satellite phone, Mark.
You're not gonna get one either.
Okay, thought we'd ask.
Satellite phones?
One of the things that has been evolving for us has been our telemetry abilities with our 12 lead. To send those directly to the hospital. I think that's been working pretty good for us.
I assume, does 10 Sleep have that too? Shake your head yes if you have telemetry, you can send it in. They can't hear me.
They're talking. They don't have it.
No, they don't.
Mark asked if 10 Sleep
They said no, they
has the
don't.
ability to send 12 lead.
Okay.
They talk about computer-aided dispatch in Hot Springs County. I don't believe we have that yet. If we had Mel here, I could ask, but what are our backup strategies for communication? Dale already brought one up. Call dispatch, let them make the phone call to the hospital if you can't get out. If they won't answer their radios for whatever reason, have them PX them on the phone and talk to them directly. In the canyon, Mark had mentioned there's a possibility of using the Wi-Fi system out there in the canyon. They do have Wi-Fi out there.
2 of the houses have Wi-Fi. You'd have to be able to connect to their Wi-Fi.
And it's not an open Wi-Fi then, I
It's
guess. Okay.
I've got the passcode to one of them. That's the only reason I have it.
Yeah, we often run into problems in the canyon for communication.
Wyoming gets pretty good in the canyon right now. Everything but the tunnels.
Yeah, Wyoming's got
Little
really
spot
good
right
for the canyon
inside
now.
the tunnel.
You're really good until you're around the corner right there where all the wrecks happen.
Yeah.
Is the way it works. Emergency medical dispatcher, we don't have that availability. They talk about what emergency medical dispatch can be doing. Obviously, when you leave, you go 10-8. You let them know that you're traveling. You want to get all the updates from the scene that you can possibly get. Every so often, like when we had our suicide the other night, I'm coming into town, I've got a portable radio in my pickup, and suddenly everything goes to Sierra, whatever it is, their scramble channel, where I can't hear what the officers on scene are doing or what they're observing. I can hear the ambulance, but that's it, because we don't have scrambler in the ambulance. Presents some dangers to us. If we don't know what's going on the scene, we probably should stop and talk to dispatch and say, hey, look, is it safe for us to go on in? When you start hearing the sounds like Daffy Duck on the radio, might be a good time to check in with dispatch.
Yeah, that's dangerous, the officers keep
Talks about a verbal radio report. Hospital here wants to know what when we roll to a wreck out somewhere.
They want to know the name and date of birth of the patient shortly after we get out the garage door.
Yeah. Which we don't typically have at
It's
that
always the
point.
first question they ask.
Do you know who it is?
Well, yeah, they're gonna try and pull the record, right? Is that what they're looking
Yes.
for?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they would like to have all that information. Trouble is, we don't have it until we get on scene and have a chance to sort things out, obviously.
We'll get an agent.
But we need to call what?
Traumas.
Traumas, yeah. What are some of our criteria for partial and full trauma?
Level of consciousness.
Yep.
Okay, what's the dividing line on that?
13.
Below it, yeah, 13.
Is a partial.
Below 10?
8.
No way.
Well, 8, you're in pretty tough shape.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's why I call it full.
Becomes a full.
Wanna call it before that, probably.
Well, they're at 3. So
Less
that's
than
fine.
10.
A rollover is an instant partial. An amputation distal to the elbow or the knee is a partial. That was a nice voice crack. Burns covering.
Remember, they can't hear you.
Burns covering 20%.
20%?
A vehicle in a car and fast.
I look at the list on the ambulance wall.
And that's one of our cheat sheets that we have on the ambulance wall. I was hoping somebody would remember that we look at that, because obviously we don't run those all the time, and
Oh, blood thinner.
their sheet is fairly, how do I want to put it, specific on criteria.
Yeah.
Now, we have to go by what's reported when we roll out of here.
Right.
A lot of times what's reported to dispatch, and they get it from the scene,
Right.
and we get there and
Garbage in, garbage out.
there's nothing there, or worse yet, there's really no big deal, just go on out and check it out, and you get there and holy crap, it's really bad. Both can happen. It's not dispatch's fault, they get what they get. People don't always relay things accurately. Page 126, going through verbal radio reports. Patient's age, sex, level of consciousness, LOC. Chief complaint or primary problem, description of the scene, general appearance. Brief history, associated signs, symptoms, pertinent negatives, degree of distress, vital signs. Should include glucose level and pulse oximetry. How much their oxygen saturation is.
Oxygen levels.
Yeah, oxygen level, or oximetry?
Oximetry.
Oximetry. Neurologic, past medical history, secondary assessment findings, any treatment provided, any requests for treatment, name of a personal physician if appropriate, estimated time of arrival. All those are things that should be in that report that we call into the hospital. Effective radio communications, you gotta wait till everybody else is done talking before you talk. Yeah, think about that one, because the more you talk, the less somebody else can get on the radio. Yeah, try to keep it short, keep it simple.
I know a guy.
Written communications documentation, this is on page 129. Obviously, they talk about military time, we know that one. Legal issues in your PCR. Obviously, write it factually, do not go into, how do I want to put it?
Don't opine.
Yeah, don't opine, very good. The old TV show, and I'm the only one here old enough to remember it, was Dragnet.
Oh, you're not.
The Joe Friday.
We're all kids once.
Just the facts, man.
Just the facts, yep, and that's all you want to put in there. You don't want to say, gee whiz, I think. Leave those out of that report. Do not attempt to use medical terms and abbreviations if you do not fully understand their meaning.
What?
Yeah, it's really easy to miscommunicate when you use things inappropriate, or you just use the wrong one. Never make up your own abbreviations, because they will only be meaningful to you and could confuse others. What is continuity of care? This is on page 131.
The patient doesn't stop being your patient just because you're in the hospital.
Okay? So you're gonna follow through with continuity of care until they leave your care, right? Everything that you do is gonna be part of that continuity of care. You wanna document all of that. As far as keeping a copy of your reports, you gotta turn them in. Nice thing is if you need one for a legal reason, Mark can pull those up for you.
No, I don't think Mark.
Molly
I know
can.
somebody.
I got a guy that can get it.
You got a guy that can do it. Biggest part that people get into trouble with is on 132, the narrative section on those reports. If you suspect this call is going to be a possible lawsuit or a legal action, sometimes we can come on to crime scenes, that type of thing. Really think about what you're putting in that report.
And not necessarily legal action against the ambulance.
But
if
you're gonna,
if it looks like somebody's gonna be suing that guy that hit him or something like that, document.
or you're gonna be going to court. We've gone to court numerous times for various things over the years, and they wanna know what we saw on scene, make sure that you accurately document that scene. And remember, as I said earlier, the PD that's there with the body cams, and they're always right there behind us doing their best to help us out. Make sure you think about that, because that will also be introduced as evidence. And it's probably a little bit expected that not everybody would have the exact same view of the scene. I mean,
You know, lawyers want human beings to have like computer recall, because that makes their job easier, but that's not reality.
I think having that detail, because sometimes you don't testify, sometimes
2
years
years.
later.
Right.
And so having a detailed narrative helps you remember too, because I have a terrible memory, so without that, I'm
Do you think we could get doctor's notes for our memory loss problems?
Or
We could sure-
Well-
testify, can't remember what they had for breakfast.
I got called to the courthouse about 4 years ago, and the county attorney called me in, who I know personally. I thought it was something, I thought he just wanted to talk to me about something personal. And he says, I'd like to talk to you about the wreck that you were on January 7th, 2012, out on Highway 120, and there was a fatality. Tell me about it. And I'm like, I don't remember.
Let me check the data bank.
There was a wreck.
And I'm like, and he's like, you don't remember a wreck with a fatality? And I said, I've been to several, you know? I mean, it's like, I need time to go back and consult my notes before I'm gonna make any statements in regards to the issue. And he was good with that. He said, okay, I understand. But
Whatever lawyer's asking you to testify, she'll tell you whether she wants you to refresh your memory or not, because it may be strategic for you to not have a memory. And then they'll tell you, don't, look at a report. Most of the time, they'll tell you, look, I understand it was a long time ago, get the report, I'll give you the report, because most of the time they have it already.
Yeah.
And you can refresh your memory with that.
yeah, and in that case, they didn't have the full report yet. So, anyway, page 135, our favorite thing to do, documenting refusal of care. Obviously, you gotta document it. Should be signed by 2 people on the crew, not just one. I think we did one the other night and I just signed it. We should have, and if there's like a sheriff's deputy or somebody else on scene, we should have them sign off also.
So on that one, I had you sign as the EMT on
Right.
that line, and I signed as the
Oh,
witness.
you signed as witness, okay.
Yeah, is that bad
No,
No.
I think that's good. They talked about, though, if you've got law enforcement there,
to use them as a witness?
asking them to sign off, somebody separate from our
Oh, okay. Well, that
service.
makes
I don't know if
sense.
that's necessary or not, but that was just a recommendation they
Yeah,
made.
in fairness, the coroner's office usually walks in and says, they were here, but oh well. And the guy died.
Can't trust the guys who witness
He's
anyway.
like, we'll cover this one up too.
What's the time frame mark for us to get our reports in? I know Molly gets kind of grumpy.
They want them in. Now, this doesn't, Tennessee does it different than us. Our paper ones are working, and they want those in by, within 8 hours. When we, our electronic part. And so.
The paper ones that we leave at the hospital with our basic information.
Right, and so Jay said, when you're filling out paperwork, back in service is when they get the ambulance back to the garage, but completed call is when you get that paperwork done, is what they said.
You said within 8 hours?
They want you, yeah, we'd like to have that report done within 8 hours.
Okay.
Why, you want it done faster?
No, I wanna sleep.
Night shift doesn't like that.
No.
Oh, no, totally understand. Now remember,
Just do it when you get,
Yeah.
take your 15 minutes, get it done, then go to sleep. You're not gonna sleep.
You're already up.
15 minutes? Well, I know how to
It's
do
marked
it.
4 hours.
10 minutes in some cases, right?
Some of us are an hour and a half, okay?
Well, if you do it more than once
Oh,
every 3
whatever.
years.
The important thing is do a report and turn it in as quickly as possible. Real quickly, as far as reports go, does anybody have any other questions?
They all make fun all the time for fun.
Okay. We're on to
Next chapter.
medical terminology, and I'm not even going to attempt a lot of this.
Now, really go through those prefixes. Those are a real help. I just recommend read through them real quick for now, but know them for the test, those prefixes, because those will help you break down words, and those help so much.
But as far as doing a total review, I think I'm probably going to hold off on that one a little
Yeah, I
bit.
agree. You guys in Ten Sleep have anything on medical terminology you want to go over? They're just sitting there with their hands up. Oh, one's shaking their head.
Yes or no?
They're looking like, are they talking to us? You guys! You poor...
Okay, then let's move through the prefixes and
Oh,
suffixes.
she's yelling at the camera. Okay, we're good.
Page 159. We're going to move ahead a little bit. What is this?
That's your arm.
Abduction.
Oh.
What's this one?
Adduction.
Very good. What's this?
Extension.
Extension, flexion.
Flexion.
Okay, we got it down.
Used to be much more impressive when you were younger.
Yeah, exactly.
Gun show.
Now you have the part that dangles.
Take a look at page 161. Probably one of the things that we use most often is what organs are in what quadrant of the body. If you have an injury, say a penetrating injury to the left upper quadrant, what organs could possibly be affected? Stomach. How about to the right upper quadrant? What likely is going to be injured?
Gallbladder.
Liver, primarily, it's the biggest organ in there, and then possibly gallbladder also. How about left lower quadrant?
Intestines.
Yep.
Appendix.
Yeah, and then right lower quadrant,
That's appendix.
appendix would be on the right side. Most people.
Yes, I was.
More intestines.
More intestines, yeah, obviously. Prefixes quickly. Ab is away from, ad is towards. Makes sense. Guess we can go through all those if you guys have questions. Okay, moving on. Position of patient. Who wants to demonstrate all the position?
Yeah, let's not.
Mark is
Position.
the most agile, I think.
Yeah.
Get the chubby guy to do it. That'll be funny.
Okay, I think we know all those from the basic class. trailing zones and naked decimals. I'm not,
What?
this is on page 164, I'm not sure what that is. Sounds like our most recent patients that we've been dealing with.
Trailing zeros and naked decimals.
Yeah, you heard that. Brendan said that's usually on one of you guys' calls.
Yep,
Where do you see that?
normally.
Oh, trading zeros.
Then there's about 5 or 6 pages of medical terminology, which would be good to review. And I'm not going to go through all of it because I'm not sure it's all that pertinent. So let's go to lifting and moving, chapter 6. We're going to be out of here before 9 o'clock if I keep this up.
Keep it up.
We're not arguing.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, you're on, Brendan. Move patients carefully. Okay, we're done.
That was easy.
Yeah. What's probably the biggest thing that takes EMTs out of work?
Back
problem.
Back injuries. How many of us in here have had back injuries as a result of
No.
EMT?
Nope.
I've had this one back.
I had a long week once. but
Yeah,
It was
had
sore.
some ugly moments periodically.
I ignored Dale's calls for a while once.
Take a look on page 187. You'll see the gal bent over picking up the backboard.
Yeah, that's a bad idea.
That's a big no-no.
She
That
might
is
just be,
totally proper.
she could just be stretching.
That's correct.
Yeah, it could be, but
Maybe, just.
what's the key to lifting? Lift with your legs, not with your back. Also, what's the proper grip? Under, like this.
Girl for the girls.
Yeah, curls for the girls. Very good.
Really?
Ty, you're thinking, man.
Or is he thinking about girls?
Probably.
Thinking about the lady with the 90, that's it.
Or no night.
And then he looks across the table and says, that might be my mom one day.
No, at least I know she'll be wearing clothes.
On 188, proper lifting, performing the power technique.
We all were.
One of the things you want to avoid is when you're lifting with somebody else is pulling whatever you're lifting to yourself. If it's a 2-person lift, because when you pull to yourself, what are you doing to the guy on the other end?
Pulling away from him.
Yeah, they're suddenly going out here. You want to both get properly positioned before you start to lift. Do not pull away from your partner as you lift. Directions and commands, obviously we need to talk our way through it, so everybody is moving at the same time. What are some different ways we move patients across beds and onto various items?
Sheets, comforters, pillows.
Scoop. What's one problem with the scoop to be careful on?
It's cold and it pinches you.
And it pinches. You don't want to pinch their butt cheeks with the scoop. You want to take your time, make sure that you're not pinching anybody.
Hair.
Thumbs.
Log roll
Yep.
is another good technique to use, and then roll them back onto either the scoop or the backboard, either way.
And then there's the classic, can you stand up and walk over here?
Yeah, that.
That one works really well, and I think if you can encourage patients to do that, I think you should. I know at one time
But
we
we
had.
never do that according to the test.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think if they can move to you, I don't think that's always a bad thing personally. I don't know if it's on the test, but take a look on page 191. You'll see they're about to move an adult. What are they grabbing?
Belt.
His belt to help move him. What also should we have in the ambulance that would facilitate movement?
Should have in the ambulance. A gate belt.
Gait belt. We had a patient the other night that didn't have anything that we could really use to hold on to that particular individual. And we ended up, they had a gait belt in the house, thank God, and we were able to get a gait belt positioned properly to where it wouldn't slip over their head. And we were able to use the gait belt to help lift them. I get a kick out of you, Tyler. 2-person body drag. When would you use that?
An emergency move.
Yeah. Typically it's in a bathroom where they're wedged between the toilet and the sink or the shower or the tub, and you got to get them out of there to where you can give them proper treatment. Obviously, what do you want to make sure that you take care of while you're doing that?
C-spine.
C-spine, yeah.
Fine.
Okay, various things, we know the stretcher. Weight distribution, when you pick somebody up on a backboard, where is most of their weight?
The middle, well, towards the head.
Towards the head end. The person at the head end has approximately 15 to 20% more of their weight than the person at the back end, depending obviously on how high you lift it. If you want to do the other person, Amy and I, when we lift together on a backboard with a patient, I try to remember not to stand clear up to my normal height, because it's putting it down on her.
Yeah.
It's a lot heavier.
It's throwing a lot of weight on Amy. They talk about planning your moves ahead of time. They talk about, and this is on page 194, the diamond carry. If you need more people, get more people. I heard a statistic that 40% of Americans today are obese, that technically qualify as obese. What is the maximum amount of weight that two people should be able to, could possibly handle?
250.
250 pounds. If they're bigger than that, you need additional resources. And it depends upon the crew. In our case, some crews can handle that 250 deal. Some might want to rethink moving somebody at 250. Okay, page 196, emergency moves. Why might you have to do an emergency move?
Car's on fire.
Car's on fire. For whatever reason, you need to move that patient now. They talk about the drag, using either clothing or a sheet underneath the patient, their arms, hopefully they're not broken when you do that. Be careful what you pull on. How about coming out of a car? Does that ever have to happen?
On occasion.
Yeah, what should be on that patient if you had the option on page 197?
C-collar.
C-collar first, yeah. Rapid extrication technique. We use the rapid extrication quite often in our car wrecks. Why?
So that we can get them to care.
We want to get them to care, but here in Wyoming, in the canyon in the wintertime, what are we fighting a lot of times?
Cold.
Cold, hypothermia, yeah. They've been in that vehicle. It takes us 30, 40 minutes sometimes to get to them, depending upon traffic in the canyon and how quickly we're paged. They're getting cold. We got to get them moved. We got to get them moved fairly rapidly. I have not seen anybody do a fireman's carry on our crew here. I don't know if anybody recommends those. Take a look on 201, non-urgent moves. They talk about a direct ground lift. I've never used that one, but it's log rolling the patient and then lifting the patient together that way, then placing them on the stretcher. Extremity lift, I can't remember us doing that one. I guess where you place your hands on that one might be kind of important too for patient privacy.
I think we do the direct ground lift all the time in the high school. That's usually what we do. That would be what that's called.
Yeah, I think so.
So they're doing, they're having their seizures or whatever.
Yeah.
We just kind of get down there, pick a couple of us,
Pick them up and set them on.
I like that procedure of the yelled out.
Nice thing is those patients kind of lend themselves to that because they're high school kids, and
They probably didn't hear it intensely, so.
they were saying that we use the direct ground lift quite often, apparently, with patients at the high school that we've had to deal with
middle school.
seizures in middle school.
Luckily, it's been a year.
It has, hasn't it?
Obviously, sliding the patient from bed to cot to bed or bed to cot, either way. Best way is something under them to slide them with.
Like the sheet that's already there.
Yeah, that would be ideal. Blanket, possibly, if you got nothing else, you can get that under them. Using a scoop stretcher. This is on 205. Got to make sure that you don't pinch them. Big thing with the scoop. It is pretty handy though. Probably the hardest part is a deadlift from ground to our cot. Our cot goes down pretty low though. The new cots are even better than the old ones were in that respect. Moving from a chair to a stair chair. We use the stair chair quite a little bit. It saves us going up and down stairs. Well, going down primarily, but it helps going up also, if they'll go on the stair chair. Okay, 208. Once again, they talk about obesity and problems with patients getting bigger and bigger. And I think we've all seen that. The wheeled ambulance stretcher, especially the power ones that we've got, man, those are handy when they work. I don't believe we have a bariatric stretcher. Probably could use it. Except we never get it in the house.
Yeah.
It won't fit in the
Yeah.
Why encourage people?
They talk in here about if you have a drop moving a patient from stretcher to anything, you need to document it in your paperwork, obviously.
It depends on if they're conscious or not.
The comment was made, depends if they remember it or not. I'm going to suggest that we just document it
Depends
regardless.
on if the body cam is pointing toward you or away from you.
Okay, the big one. Let's talk about page 213, backboards. We last year changed our protocol with backboards. What patient should probably, that we would have backboarded previously, we don't backboard now?
Fall patient.
Back injuries. Is that what you're talking about?
No, we're talking about backboarding in general. Just, who, today, what's our protocol on, when would we not use a backboard now that we used to use one?
Picking up all people off the ground.
Okay, are they complaining of neck pain?
No.
Why would we have backboarded them in the past?
Potential C-spine injuries.
Mechanism of injury. We look at what's happened, they've fallen off the toilet, or something similar. They're not complaining of any neck pain, but in the past we were always told regardless, C-spine. What's the protocol now?
C-spine of neck pain.
Go ahead and probably use a C-collar, but do we have to do full spinal immobilization? No. Car wreck. Somebody's in a car wreck. We know there's potential for neck injury. Are they complaining of neck pain, anything like that? No, but we know they probably got whiplash because the car got whacked from behind. What are we going to do?
C-collar.
C-collar. We're going to go ahead and C-collar. Now, you come on that patient at that car wreck, they have intense pain, point tenderness of the neck, maybe tingling in their fingers. Excuse me. What are we going to do?
C-collar.
C-collar and probably, because we could have a potentially unstable C-spine. We're going to go ahead and do full C. We're going to do full
Mobilization.
full immobilization. If there's a potential that it could be potentially unstable. What's the best way to move a patient upstairs? Stair chair, if we can. Walk them.
Walking.
Yeah, walking is always a good idea if they can walk. Get extra help. Where's most of the weight when you're going up or going down the stairs?
It's gonna be on the downside.
On the bottom end. Who's ever on the bottom end, Whether it's with a backboard, whether it's with our cots. Our new ambulance stretchers, they're great for going in and out of the ambulance. They're great for raising a patient up off the ground, but they probably weigh 50 to 100 pounds more than the old ones weighed. So when you're going up and down stairs, they're 80 pounds more. I was right in the middle. You're packing another 80 pounds up those stairs or down those stairs when you've got them on the stretcher. So think about that. What other things could we use to go up and down stairs that would be lighter?
Stair chair.
Stair chair is ideal choice, but not everybody can scoop if we have to. The only bad thing about the scoop is ours doesn't have any straps on it to keep them on the scoop.
Right.
Don't they have that bigger, light stretcher?
The light stretcher that we have in the back, regular
Yeah.
light stretcher, or even the backboard for going up and down those stairs. Thank God we don't seem to do as many. We haven't had anybody in a basement lately to.
Oh, God, why would
Thanks
you?
for saying
Why would you
Yeah.
announce that? Nice.
Sorry to bring that one up. Medical restraints. We're called to a scene with a 19-year-old male. Why would we want to possibly, what would be a reason we might want to restrain an individual? What would, something that might lead to restraint needed?
They're harming themselves or others.
They're combative.
Psychotic episode.
Yeah, doesn't know what, they don't know what they're doing.
Head trauma.
They've had a serious head trauma. Maybe they've taken a substance that is causing them to hallucinate and become violent. Typically, what are we going to do first when we come upon that scene?
Scene safety.
Yep.
Scene safety.
Call the cops.
Call the cops, yeah. Let's get them out there. Now, the problem is if we're 35 miles out of town, they may or may not show up for a while.
35 minutes on the other side of town.
Yeah, that could be. It does happen. They talk about if you're going to restrain, what are some concerns you should have?
Legal issues.
Lots of legal issues, aren't there?
Yeah.
With crew safety, you got to make sure that that is indeed a problem, that you can definitely show that. Obviously, when they talk about restraints, medical restraints, we don't even carry them in the ambulance anymore that I'm aware of. I don't think we've got any medical restraints anymore. They talk about having one person for each extremity. If you're going to have to do it with a 4-person restraint and then a 5th person for the head. Most of our crews don't have that many people. But if you can get extra personnel, that would probably be ideal. Okay, questions? I got 3 chapters in an hour.
Oh.
That is not a challenge, Mark.
You guys want to stick around? We'll just BS for another 7 hours. Okay, I think we're done then. Are we done?
We're done.
We're done.
They're leaving.
Thanks, guys. You were wiser.
I doubt it.
So chapters 7 through 9 for tomorrow?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know if she's going to get to 9 or not. Is she going to try to do 9 tomorrow?
And you say the first test has chapter 7, but not 8 or 9?
No, it has 1 through 7 in it.
Okay.
Hey, Mark?
And Amy, I'm going to email it out the week before the class.
And we can use our book again.
Then we'll review it when we get here.
No, you can take it on my children and I'll go sleep.
You didn't even have a call last night.
He's not even on this week.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. There's no reason you didn't get enough sleep.
I woke up at 7:30.
I mean, you're what, 12?
And,
Should be good with like 7 hours.
literal child just have a harder time
So
going to
Jim,
bed
I
early.
still need training on
That
your.
is such a lie.
It is not.
That is
It
such a
bad.
lie.